I'm Christina.
And I'm Matt.
And this is New Ways Podcast. Today, our guest is a music agent with United Talent Agency, Chase Caskey. Thank you for being here with us.
It's good to be here. I'm excited. I'm excited to chat with you guys about mental health and music and my journey.
Yeah, absolutely. So I kind of want to get us to go into, start. I've gotten to know you over these past 6 months, through my boyfriend, Sam, and you've shared a lot of incredible things that's kind of got on over, the past few years of your life. And so I kind of want us to start out too by just sort of sharing, what got you into the music industry and how did you end up in the position that you are today?
Yeah, that's a fun one. I think it all started with Guitar Hero.
Really?
Really? Yeah. It started with Guitar Hero. I loved playing that game, and then I begged my mom for a guitar, and she inevitably caved, got me like a little cheap $60 guitar, which I just played the shit out of that thing. And from there started a band. Really enjoyed being in a band. And played a couple concerts. I ended up like booking and promoting and managing a lot of the back end for my band. And through that, in that same era, I actually got into like raves. It was like a freshman in high school, and one of the seniors like invited me to go out, and found underground warehouse parties at 13 years old and just fell in love with it. But I still wanted to be a rock star. I was telling you, like when I was in middle school, I decided, I didn't want to be a fireman. I didn't want to be a lawyer. I wanted to be a rock star.
Yeah.
So I kept doing the band thing. And one of the pivotal moments that made me kind of decide, maybe not like being in a band is not going to work out for me is my high school did like a battle of the bands, and my band got creamed. And the band that won, one of the guys in there like ended up being like the lead guitarist of this, world touring band Born of Osiris. And, another kid that went to my high school, Alec Benjamin, is one of the most like street musicians in the world right now. And obviously didn't know this was going to happen in high school, but I was looking and I was seeing these guys and like, man, their dedication towards like the craft and making music and writing music and practicing guitar and all this stuff is unparalleled. Like I can't match it. But what I realized I was really good at was booking my band and throwing parties. So good at it, and so good at like in promoting parties. It just came like naturally to me. So in high school, before you could buy tickets to raves online, and when they were still illegal, the only way to get pre-sales to shows was go to this like little smoke shop in Tempe, Arizona. And I would go there, I would pick up a bunch of flyers, go back to my high school, show all my friends the flyers, get orders of tickets, then go back to the smoke shop, buy all the tickets, sell to all my friends for like $5 more than what I bought them for. Through there, one of the guys who was throwing parties was like, "Who the hell are you? Why are you buying so many tickets? You're buying 100 tickets to my shows." And he gave me a job. And from there, I started working for him, promoting his raves, got poached by a larger promotion company called Relentless Beats. They're still around today. I worked with them for a couple of years. Through that, I got a job offer from my brother to work in IT security sales. And I was like, I should probably try real life out. By this time, I was like early 20s. And I was like, I've been doing this rave thing and this party thing for a couple of years. Like, I should probably figure out what real life's like and do a real life job. So I did that for 2 years, kind of put music on the side, started throwing my own parties again. And in that job, I was doing sales with the DOD, NSA, CIA, FBI. Like my vertical was federal agencies, which was great practice. Learning how to sell something to, someone at the NSA is pretty interesting, or like cold calling an FBI director. is a pretty interesting thing to do, especially at 22. But I was good at it. I didn't like it.
Yeah.
You know, and I was staring at my boss one day in his cubicle, and I was like, this guy's a millionaire, but he looks miserable, and this is not like fun. And you know, I dedicated, when I got the job there, I told him I was going to stay there for 2 years, and then I was going to figure it out from there. And right around my 2-year mark, I was like, this is not it for me. And so I started looking elsewhere, and my dream is to live in Amsterdam. I had visited it a lot when I was like a kid, and I just like, fuck it, let's go to Amsterdam. So I found a place to stay. I moved out there. Didn't know anyone out there besides the person I was staying with and one other mutual friend. Found a job there. For all intents purposes, I was like somewhat an illegal immigrant. In Holland, Americans can stay there for 3 months without like breaking any laws. So I stayed there for 3 months. Then you can leave for 24 hours out of the Schengen zone, and it resets your visa. So I left the Schengen zone for 24 hours and come back.
That's smart, though, doing it that way.
Yeah, but I wasn't making any money, and it was just a testing experience to see, you know, if I really wanted to take the.
Wait, what were you doing out there then?
Yeah, so I was basically an intern being paid under the table.
An intern for a music agency?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was in the Netherlands and Europe. Music laws are a little bit different. So it was a music agency, a management company, and a record label. So how that's different is in America, a manager can't be an agent because there's just a bunch of.
Well, there's two different job titles.
They're two different
jobs. They do two different things. Yeah.
Yeah, and like the manager should be fighting against the agent, and in certain ways, because if an agent has 360 degrees of control over an artist, it can be really bad for an artist. I'll give you an example too. Is like, you know, if you're managing and booking an artist, and say a bigger agency comes to the manager, right, and is like, yo, we want to sign this artist, and you're also the booking agent, you're going to think to yourself, well, I don't want you to sign this artist because then you're taking 10% away from me. How that can get really jacked up, though, is like the bigger agency can offer more opportunities, more shows, more exposure. And if you're in control of the management and the book and the live bookings as the agent, you could really not think forward for the artist and really think for yourself, and it can hurt artists. And I saw that happen actually directly, where, you know, a major talent agency wanted to sign an artist that was under this 360 deal, and the manager agent, instead of telling the artist, hey, like this massive music agency wants to sign you, he pulled him to dinner and had him sign a 5-year contract and didn't tell him that this massive agency wanted to sign him. Ooh. Which would have been pivotal for his career. He would have instantly been playing, you know, some of the biggest music festivals in his genre. Wow. Yeah. So that's what I was doing over there. I saw stuff like that happen. I love the Netherlands. I love the people there. I love the country. But it just did not vibe with me. Mm-hmm. Like to live there. I love it there. It's a second home for me. And from there I jumped from Amsterdam back home to Phoenix for a little while to get my bearings straight, and then moved to Los Angeles. I knew less people in LA than I knew in the Netherlands. I was applying for 50 to 100 jobs a day, like anything I could find in music. And backing up through this whole process, like when I was working the IT job, I saved up a bunch of money, and I basically told myself when I quit, like, you have a finite runway here. Once the runway is gone, you're quitting music forever. You need to figure it the fuck out. Because like, if you don't, for me, if you don't put a deadline on it, then like, what are you doing? You're just kind of spinning your wheels. Yeah. So I went from Amsterdam, came to LA, was applying for all these jobs. I wasn't getting anywhere. And then I had a conversation with a music agent who ran his own agency, who I had booked shows with previously when I was throwing shows. And, you know, one of the things he said to me is, I don't have the time to bring on someone new to my agency, and you don't have a client base, so I can't pay you. And my retort to him was, sounds like you're so busy you need to bring someone on to help you. don't worry about paying me. I'll work for free for 6 months and we'll figure it out from there. 6 months go by. I build up a book of business. I think I increased like the bottom line by like 30% in that 6 months with like how much I was moving. So he gave me a job offer. So I started working with him over like right when I started getting paid by him actually is when the pandemic started. And then, you know, as a music agent, your whole revenue is off of live touring, right? No more live touring. And I was like, fuck. I just found my way, and then pandemic happened. So then I moved back to Arizona because I'm not going to be in LA paying LA rent and not making any money. But I was like, well, I'm in it now. This is what I wanted. So I'm going to keep grinding through the pandemic and, you know, found different ways to make money through the pandemic, whether it's like virtual shows or, you know, throwing shows in Florida where the pandemic didn't exist.
It didn't. I was in Florida. Honestly, it was wild. Bars were still packed.
Yeah. And people will say what they want about that. But at the end of the day, like shows were happening there. It was legal. I'm sorry. And some context on that, like why like a lot of artists kept touring is like, I have artists that are here on O1 visas. And it's like a lot of people on Twitter were like, get a job at Walmart. And it's like, well, if you're on an O1 visa, you have to work specifically in the field you got the visa for, right? So you can't just get an O1 visa to be an artist and then go work at a tech company. It doesn't work that way. And so I had these artists that were trapped in this country and they had to pay bills and we had to book shows. Plus I needed to feed myself too, you know? But stuck through that, through the pandemic, was able to like kind of move through the ranks and became a business partner at the agency I was working at. And things were good there. A couple of years went by, and I felt I personally needed to progress in my career. At that same time, I was approached by United Talent Agency. I felt a good fit there. I loved the leadership there, and I already knew a lot of the other agents and people that worked there. And I made the jump and started working at UTA, and that's the elevator pitch of how I got into music.
Yeah.
So it's a long journey. And between all that was, working every single job under the sun, handing out flyers, working production, working artist liaison, working in a record label, working marketing, throwing my own shows, like selling. I bought a bunch of like gear for live shows and like rented it and also used it for my shows. Like they're through like weekly parties, college parties, legal raves.
I mean, you had like quite, even though I mean your life looks pretty glamorous right now as far as like what you do and the power you hold, it wasn't always that way. And I mean, the fact that you took this sort of like hustle mentality and shifted from I just have to work constantly every single moment to now being in a position where it's like I'm gonna be okay. I thought that's just like, it's just really cool to see that like dynamic and like how you come about that.
It's crazy. Like I still don't feel like I work in music.
How so?
What do you mean?
I still don't feel like I'm like in the music industry. I don't know.
Do you know why you feel like that? Like,
I don't know. Like I feel like there's so much more work to be done and there's so much more I have to do before I could be like, yo, I work in the music industry, but I've by and part been doing this since I was 15.
yeah.
Do you think it's a little bit like imposter syndrome?
It could be. I mean, my first day at UTA, we had a big like LA music meeting. So there's a conference room with like 300 people in there, and we do like weekend recaps. And the guy sitting next to me was like, "Yeah, like we had a show with 21 Savage. It did, this many tickets, thousands of tickets and thousands of dollars of gross revenue." And then he was like, "I hung out with Kid Laroi this weekend. I saw Justin Bieber." And like, I was like, holy shit, who am I fucking sitting next to? He's a great guy. But then the head of the department was like, "Oh, we have a new hire, Chase. Why don't you introduce yourself?" And we're like, "Hi, I'm Chase. I book raves," so there's so many different levels to the music industry, and like it's almost like once you break one glass ceiling, you can see the next one like right above you, and it's kind of like this never ending. How do I level up? How do I level up? How do I level up?
That is such a reoccurring theme on this podcast. I feel like so many people come on and they're like, once I reach one milestone, it still doesn't feel like I've reached anything. So I'm constantly like looking for something else. But then it's to the point where like, even when you get to work with like these other stars that you're naming, are you even going to feel like you're in the music industry then?
Who knows?
That's what I mean.
Who knows?
Do you think maybe, and I'm just curious, did you, going into it at a young age, did you have an idea of what you thought this was going to look like or how you would feel?
I just wanted to be a rock star.
Yeah.
I wanted to I don't know, like I like at a young age, like I just wanted to tour and you know, have a bunch of hot girls around with me and party and do drugs and stuff like that. And as I got older, that vision, that dream like developed into something else. And like even though I'm not playing shows, I get so much satisfaction from going to see my clients play shows. Yeah. And when I was throwing shows, just like so much satisfaction seeing like it for me, it's like when I have a client play their first music festival ever, or, you know, make some massive achievement, and I can see them like walk off the stage and see them feel happy that they achieved something. It's kind of like a conduit of like my happiness. Like we
Do you
share.
feel like you're in the music industry then when you see that?
I feel like I helped my friend.
Oh.
Like, and like I feel like it's a team sport, and I get to like share success with them.
Yeah.
And you know, a little bit like live vicariously through them a little bit as well. But it's such a gratifying feeling. Like when I work with a developing artist, and I get to have that conversation with them of like, hey, like, I need you to kind of quit your day job because I need you to tour full time. That's a crazy good feeling. And like being able to like allow other people to be the rock star that they wanted to be is such a cool feeling to me. And like, those are the moments where like, fuck yeah, you know, this is a really gratifying like moment for me.
When you tell the artist like, hey, I need you to quit your day job because we need you to tour, like how is that usually met?
Say it again.
How is that usually met? Like how do they respond to that when you tell them that often?
You know, some, if not most, quit their job before they should.
Okay.
I'll be honest with you. And it's kind of scary. I'm like, they're like, I need to focus on this. I'm like, and you have to have those delicate conversations, like especially with these developing artists, you know, they have like part-time jobs still while they're touring. You know, the tours are like, you know, just Friday, Saturday, come back and work your part-time job or do your side hustle. Some of them quit their job way too early and think they've made it. And, you know, like what I don't think a lot of people realize is developing artists, like they're not making a crap ton of money. You know, they're lucky to break even on their club shows that they're doing, even like when they're like in the mid-tier, like, you know, 300, 500 cap rooms, like headlining, they're really not making a lot of money until you're punching into the bigger rooms. So most of the time it's like, hey man, like I want to be like, you probably shouldn't have quit your job because like we don't want you in this like fight or flight thing or this scarcity mindset where like, you know, you have to play shows to make money, to make rent, to do all this other stuff. Because when you get in a scarcity mindset as like an artist, you kind of make bad in any junction of life. If you're in a scarcity mindset, you make bad decisions because you're making decisions out of fear and how I'm going to eat next, you know, and how am I going to pay my bills?
Survival mode.
Survival mode, right? And I like to, it's important, especially when you're making high pressure decisions, to kind of have an abundance mindset. And, you know, when you have an artist of any level, having an abundance mindset is really important, right? Because like an artist will see, I'll just use like a random number, like a $10,000 fee, you know, and maybe they've never seen a $10,000 fee before. And they'll be like, take it. I want it. I want that $10. Like, and I'm playing this, and like like me, you know, because like, you know, I work with like artists and I see bigger numbers all around. It's like, listen, there's more money to be made. We need to think of the strategy behind this. Like taking that $10,000 fee could actually hurt you, and here's why. And here's why you need to say no to that $10,000, right? which to an artist who's never seen a $10,000 fee before is like, what the are you talking about?
Yeah.
That's the biggest fee I've ever been paid. And like, like, well, let's look at like where you build on the festival, like where's your time slot at, who are you playing against, like what are the politics involved in taking this rather than this. And they like, and having the abundance mindset of being like, we'll get you that fee again, we'll get you a bigger fee, but we need to be strategic about why are we taking this, and everything with touring and playing shows, which people don't realize, is that you don't just play, like artists shouldn't just be playing shows to play shows. That's reckless. There's no plan around it. Like it's always an end then, right? So like if I play this 400 cap room in Chicago, why am I doing it? Well, what's the end then to it? Like what's the next room? Who's the promoter like playing the show or booking the show? What other properties that they have that I can grow into?
They have to see like the bigger picture of what's going to come from everything that they're doing, not just like the in that moment money that's coming from it. Yeah.
And then also too, I can see hundreds of different tours moving around and seeing the ticket counts and seeing what genre is moving this way in this market, what genre is doing good here, what genre is failing here. That promoter owes someone money. And they're losing on all their shows. Like, we're not going to get paid if we do this show, even though that you think you are, like, or I know the politics behind this, or, this guy's in trouble for that. Like, there's so much more than just, here's a show.
Do you ever have to kind of be like a parent figure to some of these artists who maybe really sort of struggle with figuring out how to dictate these kinds of decisions and choices?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, one thing I think is important to understand, like when you're working with artists, is like just as fearful as I was in the evolution of my career, and my development and getting to where I am now, these younger artists are just as fearful, if not more. And the reason I say that is because since I didn't choose the artist path, I kind of have the ability to like weave and dodge, duck, dip, dive through different opportunities. And that's why, I work so many different jobs on the back end, from label to a promoter to a manager to a booking agent, where a lot of these artists, they have one shot, maybe two if they could know how to like reinvent themselves. And there's a lot of anxiety that goes through that. And like, that's why they overthink, and that's why they get into this scarcity mindset. And being able to have very frank and very real conversations with artists, especially developing ones, even the developed ones, and explain to them like, I'm gonna take care of you. Trust me. We win together and we lose together, right? This is a team thing. And I chose to work with you. You chose to work with me, and your success is paramount to me. That's why I chose to work with you. And yeah, so there is a little bit of like a parent thing, and a lot of artists want me to come to their shows and see them play, even though like, once the show is booked, realistically, like at the show, that I have no function of being there other than just kind of being the dad,
support,
the dad that says like, way to go, kid. And showing them that I support them, and taking the time to like go and see them play and see their art live is really important to them. And if I understandably too, if their agent doesn't make it, it's like, well, you're part of my team. Why did you make it?
Yeah.
But there are some times where I don't make it.
Yeah.
And, I had to take care of myself too.
Yeah.
I think a lot of artists that I work with, especially the younger ones, like forget, like, I'm working in an office, 60 hours a week, plus having to go to shows, plus dinners and all this other stuff. Like, you have to kind of, like, me personally, like I gauge out, and I turn on burners based off like priorities. And sometimes I have to prioritize myself in order to, keep booking the shows and keep maintaining the artist careers. And I have to take a step back and be like, you know what, like this week, I need to focus on getting a solid 8 hours of sleep, going to the gym every single day this week, spending time with, my loved ones and my friends, and taking care of me so I can keep doing the work Monday through Friday.
Yeah.
And one thing I always tell assistants and, artists and people developing is there's always going to be another party. There's always going to be another EDC. There's always going to be another Coachella. There's always going to be another Bonnaroo. Take time for yourself. And, I had an assistant come up to me. He wasn't my assistant, but he was an assistant at the company a couple of days ago. And he goes, when's the best time for me to take off from work? And I go, do you want the political answer or my answer? And I'm just gonna tell you both of them. The political answer is probably never. This industry is nonstop 24/7. I have clients that are in Europe. I have clients in Australia. I have clients in Indonesia. I have clients in Japan. It's round the clock.
Yeah.
There is not a single hour in the day where I'm not getting inbound emails that need to be answered. It's really never, but maybe if you are going to take some time off, look at your boss's schedule and some of the tours you're working on, and find a good window and let your boss know.
Realistically, how long can you continue to do this until you explode?
Yeah. So it's that was the political answer. My answer was, if you need to take time off, take some fucking time off. No one is dying here. No one is going to die. Nothing's going to explode. No wars are going to start. And if you don't take time off and take care of yourself, you're going to resent this job, and you're going to hate this job. You're going to hate your life. You're not going to perform well at this job, and then everything's going to go to shit.
Mm-hmm.
So take time off if you need time off.
I love that answer.
Yeah. Same. And an example is my assistant. I barked at her a couple weeks ago, not for the reason you would think. I barked at her because she sent me a text or a picture of her still at the office at 8 p.m. I left 3 hours before her, and I go, girl, go home. You don't need to keep working right now. I appreciate it, and I love the grind, and I love the hustle. I did the same exact thing when I was younger, and I worked and I just worked and worked and worked and worked and worked. Mm-hmm. But I was please go home. Please get rest. I need you to be fresh. Don't feel obligated to. If you want to do it, that's fine. But I want to make sure that the person I'm working with, my assistant, understands I need you to be 100% okay here and here, so you can continue doing your job. But if you're okay doing it, by all means, I appreciate the hustle. Mm-hmm. But also just understand, I need you to be, I need you to understand that it's not a requirement to work 15 hours a day I do, because I'm crazy.
Yeah.
Where do you think you kind of got that mindset, though? Because I feel with most people in charge, they wouldn't give that answer. A lot of big companies and businessmen would be no, I need you here. We'll work around when I need you. What made you have that mindset and that idea of how to treat people in the workplace?
I think it's because I worked by and part, when I was working at the other agency before UTA, and in general, I worked for myself for a very long time. I was my own boss. I was in charge of my own hours. I worked when I wanted to, and I was damn good at it. I'm just gonna say it, and I just found that working in an office 8 hours a day doesn't constitute 8 hours of clear, unbroken work. It's kind of like that trope where it's if you give a deadline of March 1st, it's going to get done March 1st. But if you give a deadline, the month prior, it will get done a month prior, so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. And it's I found when I was working for myself and, working from home, is I could crack through 200 emails and, 15 phone calls in a matter of a couple hours, maybe 3 hours. And then I could go to the gym in the middle of the day and, work out, let the emails pile back up, get a couple of things done for myself, come back home and get all those things done. And I had a good system of bouncing back and forth between those things. And it's just really about time blocking for myself. And I respect the office culture, and there's a lot of value in being in an office for sure. So the team collaboration, communication, being able to see your coworkers every single day is great. But this whole idea of like working to the bone every single day is just not good. And maybe also too, because I spent so much time in Europe, and
different culture out there.
Yeah,
for sure,
the European vibe, and like especially like like the my like Dutch partners that I worked with, and like living in the Netherlands, is very much like it's 5 p.m. Don't talk to me about work. Let's go hang out and have a beer and get dinner, and like no more work, and like the Dutch are very on top of their shit. It's part of their culture, but at the same time, like when it's not work time, like I'm gonna take holiday. Like a lot of Europeans take all of August off. You know what I mean? And it drives me crazy because like I'm like a hybrid between like the European and the American mindset. Like, but like sometimes it drives me crazy. Like August, like out of office email like responses like all day, and I'm like, fuck, I need to get so much work done right now. But then like here I am, like I'll go to like I want to go to like Bali, and take time off. But
do you feel like more Americans should adopt that European mindset when it comes to working in those office cultures?
I think it needs to be a hybrid. Part of the reason I didn't want to stay in Europe is because the work culture was a little bit too slow for me. I love the work, and I love the work that I do. I legitimately enjoy it. But at the same time, like there are some people that I know who work way too goddamn much and don't ever take time to themselves, and they burn out. And when they burn out, everything falls. Clients get angry, like shows get messed up, like things fall apart. Mm-hmm. And when things fall apart bad on a massive scale, especially when you're working with big artists, it falls apart bad. So I'm a hybrid, right? Like I think like, yeah, you need to grind. Like this is a fast paced business. We have to move quick. We have to confirm shows quick. We have to work deals quick. We have to have conversations quickly, but all in due time. Like there are certain time periods and there are certain conversations that can really, really wait. Mm-hmm. And also too, like, it's just like personal planning. Like I actually purposely coordinate most of my tours in spring. So like this time of year, I'm like working crazy hours, like putting together, hundreds of shows. I think this year I booked 800 different engagements. Oh, wow. So, but I try and truncate it all into like spring. That way in springtime, the business becomes a lot slower for me, and I can start working on my fall plans for my clients. And then when fall comes, that's when it turns into more of a grind.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to applaud you for kind of having that mindset. I feel like it would be appreciated a lot more in different corporations and businesses, because mental health is a huge thing. And you're right. Like when you're chaotic and you're coming from like a survival mode and you don't know what's going on, you don't think straight and things fall apart. So let me ask you, how has been your mental health journey throughout your life? Because I feel like a lot of times, but that's the thing. I feel like so many people, like through different experiences, that's when they actually realize like, oh shit, my mental health is a huge part of how I perform. It takes like experiences going through things to realize that, unfortunately. So please share with us if you don't mind.
Yeah. Not good. Not good at all. I'll be the first to say I have struggled my entire life with my like mental health and in many different capacities. I'm diagnosed major depressive disorder. I'm diagnosed PTSD. And there's a lot of stuff that goes into both of those things. I watched my father overdose and die when I was 5 years old. Wow. My mother afterwards was not the same person, and was by and part very absent. I had a very abusive childhood, physically, emotionally, and sexually. And it was rough. And I don't think as a kid I realized how much it was impacting my day-to-day life. I was a very angry child, got in fights a lot, and was angry at the world. Really, really angry at the world. And I hated everyone, and I thought everyone was against me. I I thought like only my like close friends were like, like the people I cared about, and everyone else sucked. And when I was younger too, I didn't want people to like go to the shows that I was going. I mean, don't come to my raves. Like, don't go to, this is my space.
Really?
Yeah. I didn't like, cause it was my identity, and, I was angry. I was really, really an angry kid. And in high school, I got into drugs. Like I think it started with, smoking weed as it does. And then, at least I got into the fun drugs. I did a little bit of like cocaine in high school, but I always hated it. But like tons and tons and tons of MDMA and ecstasy, LSD, mushrooms, any psychogenic I could get my hands on.
Yeah.
And it's crazy actually, because I definitely ask myself like, man, if I hadn't ingested, hundreds of pills of ecstasy, and that's not like an exaggeration, in high school, I wonder what my brain would be like right now.
Yeah.
And
Especially because like those late teen years are extremely formative years for like brain
Development.
development and decision making.
yeah.
So when did you realize though, you're like, I think that my mental health is not right? Because a lot of people might just go about life and be like, this is how I am. I'm just naturally an angry person, or like, I'm in my teens, this is normal. When did you kind of think like, yo, I'm depressed, I'm angry, I don't think I should be feeling this way, or I don't want to feel this way anymore?
Yeah. There were like a couple junctions of that in my life. I think when I was like 17, I like started like self-harming myself. And it was scary. I didn't like it, but I did it. And that progressed for quite a while. And I, for some reason, fought therapy. I think I maybe went to a therapist when I was really young and just had a really bad experience. And I fought therapy. And actually, when the self-harming got pretty bad when I was 17, I went to a therapist to like talk about it. And I had a bunch of razor blade marks on my like shoulder. And I was talking to the therapist. I opened up about it to the therapist, and she was like, "Can I look at it?" And I showed it to her, and like I don't remember exactly what she said, but she did not say something a therapist should say, and it turned me off from her. It was kind of mean what she said. Like, I don't remember the words exactly. This was like 12 years ago, over a decade ago, and I was like, "Fuck this."
Yeah.
And stopped going to therapy. I only went to a couple sessions with her, and just went about and kept doing drugs. A lot of them.
Yeah.
A lot. All the time. As far as the drugs go, because I'm going to answer this in like two parts. So as far as the drugs go, like I still wanted to work in like music, and there was like a point in my early 20s where I was in a trap house basically, and it was like 7 a.m. and all my friends were like strung out, the sun was coming, and I was like, man, if I want to work in music, I probably shouldn't do this anymore. I probably shouldn't be like partying and doing drugs every single weekend. And so I was like, I'm gonna stop doing this.
Did you stop after that when you like had that internal dialogue?
I did.
Really?
I did. Yeah. But that was one key. My mental health though was still a fucking disaster.
Yeah.
I was still angry. I was still chaotic. And I don't think I didn't start taking therapy actually until years later, until actually during the pandemic, when at the time I felt my whole life was just falling apart. Because like I had just done all that other stuff we talked about previously to get into the music industry. I get into the music industry, and then pandemic happens, and I'm back in Arizona. Yeah. And I'm like, what the hell am I doing here? And I was dating this girl at the time, and like I don't want to admonish her at all, but like things did not go well in our relationship, and she ended up like we parted ways. And I went back to self-harming myself, and I wanted I did it when I did that, you know, I was like, this is not good. I'm going to fucking kill myself if I keep doing this, and I don't want that. I don't want to keep hurting myself. I need help. And I went to I found a therapist again, and I you know, I started going to therapy very consistently, once a week for months, because I was like, if I do not get serious help, I'm not going to be able to exist as a human. I'm going to die.
In therapy this time helped.
Therapy this time helped. I found a good therapist.
Yeah,
this time.
I was gonna say.
One that didn't like demean me. And you know, he was great. I loved him. He like restored my faith in therapy. You know, we did a lot. Like we did a lot of like EMDR therapy, a lot of like trauma reprocessing, and you know, through my childhood, I was gaslit and abused. I had, you know, alcoholic parents who would abuse the shit out of me, and when they were drunk, and then the next morning not remember it, and you know, and so like becoming like an adult, like and learning, like, you know, oh, like I actually wasn't crazy. Like they would call me delusional, but like no, that actually happened, or some of the other.
It was probably a reflection of them. That's what people do. They project a lot of times, often, how they're feeling internally on like their children.
Yeah,
unfortunately.
100%.
Yeah.
But yeah, went to therapy like pretty consistently for, you know, a couple of years, and I actually stopped going to therapy. I was in a pretty stable relationship. You know, thought I was going to get married to this person. That relationship abruptly ended, which then resulted in, you know, huge anxiety attack on my end. I went back to drugs, took Xanax, took way too much Xanax, woke up in a fucking hospital. And I was like, this is not good. Yeah. I need to go to therapy. And I started going to therapy again, and I found another therapist here in Los Angeles. And, you know, I've been going to him for a little over a year and a half now. And, things are on a track. And, you know, I resisted medication for a long time as well. My family was very like anti-vax and very like holistic. And, I think there is a place for holistic medicine. Absolutely. There's also a place for traditional medicine. And I finally reluctantly started taking like medication for my depression. And, you know, it's not something I want to do, but I do it, and it helps.
Yeah.
And it helps with all the other aspects of my life.
Yeah. And like, who knows too, I believe there's a time and place for any type of therapy or medicine. Good for you for getting the help that you need. And now that it seems like you're doing it more consistently, seeing a therapist, you know that it's like the thing to do when you're feeling down, instead of just bottling up these emotions, is to go in and talk about them, acknowledge them, and like get help. So that's why I'm a firm believer too, is like, don't get me wrong, I'm a person where I'm like, I don't like pills and stuff like that. Being in my industry too, it's not always like psych medicine, it's a bunch of things. But the goal is to like put you in a mindset in order to heal more and get yourself more stable, so eventually, hopefully, you can get off of that as well. But like, people need the help that they need. You know, without that, who knows where you might have reached in your mental like health or capabilities.
Yeah
Absolutely. And I agree 100% with you. I mean, and, you know, with me, with like my depression, it could be an everyday thing. And, I definitely used work as an escape from it. Yeah. You know, like if I want to work 15 hours a day, I can. Trust me, I can find it. I can find something to do in my work for 15 hours a day. But I was using work as a way to kind of escape that. Yeah.
But the emotions are still there then when you go home. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, again, like I definitely needed to be on the medication. You know, now I feel like I'm a lot more stable, but I punked myself, and I think I was a lot more stable and quit therapy one time. And, you know, one thing I've learned, and, you know, I talk to a lot of friends, and I'm very open about my mental health and my journey to, you know, people. And I think the one consistent thing with people who struggle with mental health, which ironically is all of us, let's be real here. Yeah. It's all of us.
Yeah.
But I hear this all the time, especially with some of my friends who are struggling more. They're like, I wish I could just be that person who just wakes up and is okay, you know? But the reality is none of us are, right?
Yeah. You wake up some days and you're okay, but like, it's not an 100% thing. Yeah.
So we're all struggling, and understanding we're all struggling. And I think like, just like interpersonally, like, like everyone is going through it, right? Everyone has their problems, their disorders, their issues. And like, don't blame yourself. Don't think that you're the only person that's not okay, because everyone's not okay. But what I've learned over the years is like, the body and the mind are constantly under construction. This project of you is not finished until you die.
I'll never forget. I went to my therapist one time, like when I first started with her. I would do some intense like somatic therapy. And there was like 2 weeks straight, I felt like I was going through a breakup because I was releasing so many emotions. And I'm like, when is it going to be over? When is it going to stop? When am I going to feel better? She's like, oh, babe, it never ends. Like, things in this world, the only thing consistent is inconsistency in this world. Things are constantly changing. Your emotions are constantly coming in. Like, you just got to learn to deal with them better. That's it. There's something is always going to come up. But like, through therapy and working on yourself, you find better ways to cope with it and get over the hurdle and accept it in the moment instead of fighting it. Yeah, but you're completely right on that. I was like, oh, that's not the answer I wanted.
No, it's not. It sucks. It sucks. But I think it's also grounding too. And I think it's important to like understand, like, for everybody, like, we're all fucked.
We're okay.
But like,
We're all fucked in the most beautiful way possible in my
but
mind.
it's a form of radical acceptance in a way. Like, you understand that, like, at the end of the day, yeah, this is a really fucked situation, but like, this is how it is, and I'm gonna figure out how to deal with it and recognize it's there and move forward.
I'm constantly fighting with like, everything matters so much and nothing matters at all. Like, everything is just a complete paradox to me sometimes. You know? It's like, life is beautiful, everything's great, we're here for this human experience. How great is it that you can feel these emotions and like experience this shit? But then it's also like, damn, this stuff sucks sometimes.
And I think it's important when you're dealing with a struggle, like, to acknowledge that, right? And be like, wow, this sucks.
I feel like we've been so programmed though, because like, you ask somebody, how are you? The automatic response is like, I'm okay. Everyone loves the smiley, happy person. And don't get me wrong, I am that most of the time too. But it's like, sometimes if you tell somebody, yo, I just feel like shit, they get nervous. But why?
Well, it's so funny because like, like with Europeans, like the hi, how are you? Like, especially like Eastern Europeans, like, why are you asking me how I am? Like, do you actually care? Like, do you want to do it? Like, don't.
Really?
Yeah, it's like a weird question to ask, It's like, because like, it's like, do you actually want me to tell you? But yeah, like, I think we're all programmed to like say, yeah, everything's good, and like, and like, this last year, my brother was going through stage 4 cancer, and I didn't tell anyone at work about it, and people would just be like, how you doing? I'm like, good. Meanwhile, like, I'm visiting my brother every weekend, and he's got tubes coming out of his back. He's got a stoma, and he's shrinking and in so much pain. And I'm watching him literally on his deathbed. And then I'd spend the weekend with him, and I'd come back, and people are like, how was your weekend? I'd be like, great.
Why didn't you tell anybody?
I told my direct bosses because I thought it was important. For them to understand like where I was going and why I wasn't going to shows this year. But I didn't really think it was important to share with my coworkers, and I really didn't want to make it a deal. And I wanted to keep it private while I was going through it. And there's a lot of reasons. I just started at the company like a year, like this week was like my year, and I was really trying to like grind really hard. And yeah, I didn't think it was anyone's business too. But I shared it with my bosses because they need to know like what the fuck's going on. That's a major thing. But yeah, like I was on phone calls with clients, and this is really hard too. I was on phone calls with clients after like the weekend prior, I was in Arizona, and like my brother's stoma was like impacted with feces. And I had to by hand take feces out of his stoma. And like water towel it down and all this stuff. And that was literally my 4th of July. Right. And like, being by his bedside while he's having these like spasms of cancer leaving his body through various tubes and just crying and sitting by his bedside and hanging out with my niece and like talking her through these things and, you know, and preparing her for what's going to happen because he was going. And then Monday I'd come to the office and I'd have a phone call at 8 a.m. with some clients. And how's your weekend? It's good.
Did you have anybody though, like during that time to support you while you were supporting your brother?
It didn't feel like it. Like I was going through it and it's one of those things where when someone has cancer, cause he got diagnosed 2020, and then he went into remission and then it came back, and cancer is one of those things where, it's like you can see it coming from a mile away and you feel like you have time to like process it. And I've lost a lot of people in my life. I lost my father. I lost like all my grandparents. I've seen countless people die from overdoses. In my life, I've seen a lot of death. And you know, going through this with my brother, I was like, I'll be fine. Like I can process it, you know, like we can forward process grief, right? Like if you know it's coming, then you can microdose the grief.
Yeah.
And I think I did in a lot of ways, but then there was days where I would literally just sit in my apartment and cry, like scream,
Which
cry.
is valid, yeah.
Yeah. So, but no, I mean, I besides like my therapist, I just kind of like just doing this on my own sort of thing.
Yeah.
So. And I don't think I realized how much it affected me until like months after he actually passed away too. You know, it was just like 3 or 4 months ago. And now I'm kind of finding some stability in my life again. And I don't think I really realized how much it was affecting me this past like year. And it was like going from like the overdose into like coming out. And then now my brother's like actually terminally ill cancer. It was a very tumultuous 18 months.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, you've had a lot go on.
Yeah.
You know, and so the thing is, you know, like, I know you talked a little bit about, you know, how the antidepressants have really helped you and that therapy has really helped you. And what are some things that, like, especially when dealing with grief, right? That's something we've actually talked about a lot on this podcast. And what are some ways that you sort of dealt with it personally to really help?
Yeah. So I lost my dad when I was 5. And I think at that age, it's hard to conceptualize death. And I tricked myself into thinking like, and he's on a business trip, he'll come back, you know, and that's why he's not here right now.
Yeah.
And that's literally what I told myself when I was a kid. You know, as an adult, I've found peace with death, in a lot of different ways. I wear this necklace that says memento mori on it. It means remember you will die, remember death. And the whole thing with that is a Stoic belief. It's like, just live a good life and know that when you die, or like know that you're going to die, and hope that you live a life when you die, like people will appreciate your existence and you were a good person. But it's going to come, you're going to die. So now with death, it's like, it's an inevitable. When people die though, and when loved ones die, and I actually told my niece this, and, you know, I sat her down and I go, when your dad is gone, he's not gone.
Yeah.
He will show up in the things that you love and the things that he loved. And when you call on him, I promise you, he will show up. Because even to this day, you know, I'm 30, my dad's been gone for 25 years. When I really need him, I'll pray, I'll think about him. I have a bracelet that he gave me, and I'll hold on to that and be like, God damn it, Zach, give me something here, buddy.
Yeah.
Give me something, show me the way. And, you know, it happens. Right. And I do believe that like your friends and your family, after they do pass away, there's still a spiritual connection to them in some way, shape, or form. I don't know. But I just know they're not gone.
Yeah.
You know, physically they're gone. Absolutely. But like spiritually, like in yourself, like what your interactions were with them, like that rubbed off on you. Like a piece of every person you talk to is in you, you know?
Yeah.
And so like that carries on in you. And especially with my niece, like she is his blood, right? And like she's like a clone of him. And I told her the other day, you know, we talk a lot, and I was like, you know, like I miss your dad a lot. And I was like, I'm so grateful that I have you, because like, and like I get to share stories with your dad, and like you were just a carbon copy of him, and I just like it, you just remind me so much of him. And maybe, you know, maybe it's a little selfish of me, but at the same time, like I'm so grateful for her and like the relationship I have with her now, especially too after he's passed away, we've become a lot closer. And like, you know, we share in this bond of both having lost our fathers.
No, I think that was absolutely beautiful, the way that you put that, to be honest with you, because I also believe too we're all in a sense like spiritual beings having a human experience. Like our consciousness is a whole nother thing besides like this meat suit that we all live in. And you're right though, regardless if you do believe in like reincarnation or heaven or whatnot, energy is a real thing, and experiences that you have with people, that's how people live on, regardless of what you believe in or not. Is we can all agree that we have memories of our loved ones and how they've touched us in like deep emotional ways that are just so amazing. Well, kind of wrapping up then, Chase, I really just want to thank you so much for being so vulnerable, open, and honest. You've lived an extraordinary life, and I guarantee you in the future you're probably going to go for more roller coasters and crazy rides, and I'm excited to see how you handle it all, because genuinely I know sometimes we joke about how like we're hot messes sometimes, or like we're still going through the motions, but like you carry yourself so well, and I can feel like how much you just care about like yourself and others. So thank you for being here with us and sharing that.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. I was looking forward to doing this. I love you too. And you know, I just want to reiterate, I think it's important for all of us to be more open with our mental health and what we struggle with. And that's why I really wanted to do this, because I think it's really easy to look at someone and be like, man, they've got it figured out. Right.
Yeah.
And like, just not me, but just in general. Right. Like, and I've opened up so much about my therapy and my struggles and my mental health. And I kid you not, like a lot of my male friends specifically have like come to me and been like, can you help me find a therapist? And I'm like, hell yeah, brother.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like where do I find a therapist? Like, who should I talk to? And then, you know, like I kind of like, I never tell someone to go to therapy, but I feel like just having the discussion and like being so like bluntly honest, like I don't go to work like into the office on Fridays, and people are like, why don't you go to the office? Like, go to therapy.
Yeah. I love saying I'm going to therapy. I'm like, it's great.
Yeah. And that's why I think like conversations like this, like what you guys are doing, is important, because I think people just need to understand, like, you know, like we're all kind of a little fucked up, and that's okay. And we just got to work on it together and be a little bit more understanding about it, and take care of ourselves and take care of each other. So,
yeah. That's one of our goals with like this podcast, is we just want people to come on and share their experiences, so maybe one person out there doesn't feel as alone, or get some insight about how to handle something that they're going through. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's important. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, truly. Thank you so much for being here today, and just
Awesome. Well, until next time, I love you.
thank you. Keep shining your light.
Bye, guys.